All right, there is so much going on with this video. I just, I'm just gonna let it play, and I'll be back with my commentary in just a minute.
Like in the words of Malcolm X, who told us what? That the white liberal is the worst enemy to the black man. Yes. And he is coming up in here acting like y'all representing some social justice.
Say that,
but all along, all you're doing is trying to use black people to find a reason to make some money. Let me tell y'all something over there. We're done. The Democratic Party is done.
Abuse the black American.
Gonna come in here and gonna clean it up. Do just like R.A. Jr. Just do like that Tulsa lady. You better get up out the Democratic Party. Save yourself. Because if y'all don't, we coming for your seniors. Like in the words of Malcolm X.
Missed that button. Ooh, yeah, that's about enough of that. So here's the problem with this. And I've seen several people in the last couple of days sharing this on Facebook, friends of mine. Fairly intelligent, respectable friends of mine are sharing it, and they mean well, because it's encouraging, I guess, for some people to see a woman, especially an older lady like this. It's taking a stand, and she's laying the smack down. She's giving folks a piece of her mind. She's having her say, that sort of stuff. The problem is it's a complete waste of time, other than it makes her feel better about herself, and it might encourage someone. But as far as actually affecting any sort of change in the political world or in the community, any policymakers or whatever, complete waste of time. And here's why. You'll notice the person videoing her with the phone saying something like, say it's sister, or whatever it was he was saying. It's a he. It's a man. He's out of place. He should be in the podium, standing up and defending the community, because that's what we're created to do, provide for and protect women and children, the community. He's out of place. Now, I'm on the same side of the political spectrum, at least in this regard, as these people, but they're still wrong. They're still out of order. There's a lot of stuff on my side of the political spectrum that's out of order, and this is out of order. This lady gets to have her say. She gets to do all of her yelling and performative antics and get the attention, and her friends are going to applaud. But if you look through the video again, you'll see that the policymakers, the people in the suits sitting at the desks, they're just sitting there just waiting for the lady to run out of steam. If that were a man there, he probably would not be acting like that. But if he was acting like that, those people that are sitting there bored listening to this lady would be calling the security guards or the police or the bailiff and have him removed, because number one, being a man, he has the ability to exact violence if he gets enough out of control. They're not concerned about that with this lady, because even if she did want to get physically violent, very little she could do. And number two, it's something about the bass in a man's voice when he's standing in a podium and he's speaking passionately about things to do with his family, his community, his society, his culture, that other people sit up and they take notice of him. And he'll have influence in that way. It's extremely rare, almost doesn't happen, for a woman to have the same effect all on her own, doing the same thing. So the reason that the issues exist in our culture that this lady seems to be so worked up over, so showing out so much about, those things exist because the order of our culture is backwards and mixed up, because for the last few decades, feminism has been attacking and tearing down the patriarchy. Patriarchy is nothing more, the feminists have demonized it to make it sound like it's Al-Qaeda or something, Stepford Wives and what was that, Handmaid's Tale, and that's not the patriarchy. All the patriarchy means, the word patriarchy, all it means is rule by the father. It's not ruled by the men. Under a patriarchy, a single man is not a leader. Okay? A married, childless man doesn't qualify. The patriarchy is ruled by the father. And that could be plural. Ruled by the fathers. Because the fathers are the biggest, most belligerent, committed feminist on the planet. If a man has a family he's not taken care of, the feminist doesn't look over at the mother and say, you know what? She ought to get up off her lazy butt and take care of that husband and children she has. Nope. Doesn't matter. Feminism goes out the window. And that feminist will look over there and say, look at that sorry, worthless, good-for-nothing man that won't take care of her and them kids. She ought to get rid of him. She shouldn't be going to work, working all week just to feed that man. She can do better by herself. See, it's him that feminist who claims that men and women are equal, she claims that we should, we stand on the same, level ground. But if the family does without, everybody looks at that father and expects him to stand up and take care of him. And that's the way it ought to be. I'm not complaining about it. That's the good, true, just, and proper way for it to be. God, man, woman, children. It's not God, and then man and woman are standing beside each other because they're partners. They're mutually submitted, and all that other mumbo jumbo, and then the children under there. And it's not God and then men and women that are interchangeable widgets depending on what the situation and circumstances are. That's not what built our Western society to what it is today, where we enjoy the highest standard of living, the highest level of prosperity, and the most profound recognition of and protection of human rights of any other society on the planet. That's not what got us here. What got us here was the patriarchy. And of course, the church, in its original, is a patriarchy. It's become very feminized in the West for some reason. But the patriarchy, ruled by the fathers, because the fathers know inherently that if the family does without, and then, of course, several families together becomes a community, several communities together becomes a society. If society does without, the fathers know that everybody on the planet and God is looking to him as the loser and the failure, the responsible one. So he goes to bed every night with that on his mind, wakes up every morning with that on his mind, walks through the day with that on his mind. The mother, she can stand up and try to play that role a little bit, but she knows, she learned from way back in little girl days that if the family does without or bad things happen, that nobody's really going to look at her and hold her accountable, because she and the community can always look to the man. When the man fails, where do they look to? Where does he look to? He's got no one to point a finger to. And that affects him very profoundly in his mind and his understanding of himself. That if I don't carry it, it doesn't get carried. So it's ironic that this lady is standing up, showing out in her little podium there, going on with all her dancing and, gymnastics and calisthenics, and she's having her say and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, she gets out of the podium. If nothing changes, and I can promise you nothing will change, if nothing changes, she doesn't carry the blame and responsibility for it not changing. The men in the podium do. That guy that's having fun videoing and, talking about, taking advantage of the black man, say it, sister, and all that kind of stuff with his little phone. He's the one supposed to be in that podium. When the policies don't change and society keeps going farther and farther and farther down, Mr. Video Phone guy there with his little, probably an Android, because, real men use iPhones, right? But no, when him with his little phone, when society keeps going downhill, it's his fault. It's his fault because he's out of his proper place. The family needs to get back to patriarchy. God, man, woman, children. And then that will grow out into the community, and that will grow even further out into society. And then all of these issues that this lady's doing her little performance over will go away. But it's got to start by her getting out of that podium, having a seat, and supporting that man holding the phone as he takes his proper place and fulfills his duty, his calling from God to provide for and protect that woman and their children. It's really funny how things work out sometimes, coincidentally. I did a video showing a lady that was in, looked like some sort of a city or county council meeting or something, and there was a whole bunch of theatrics, and she was yelling and screaming about the Democrat Party and, all this sort of stuff. And in that video, I pointed out the fact that no one in that room seemed to be very concerned with all of her growling and yelling and all of her mannerisms and dancing around and all of those theatrics and poetry she had going on. And I explained the reason why they weren't is because as animated and, strong as she was trying to be so masculine, she just wasn't effective. She's not going to be effective. And I explained why that was, because she's out of place, she's a female, so on and so forth. So it's funny how coincidentally things will be. I just got finished doing that video with the lady that you just watched. And then I went and I was looking at some of my social media platforms that I look at, my accounts, and I came across this video that I'm about to play you right here. This is from some parish school board meeting over in Louisiana somewhere, whatnot, and it's just an interesting example of what I was trying to explain of why the people in the first video were not very impressed or bothered by that lady and all of her calisthenics and yelling and dancing and theatrics. And it's an example of the difference between that and what happens when a man is in the podium.
Public legal pride, you are not.
Last week.
That man is not going to do that to me. You are not. You need to apologize now.
You, along with 6 other members.
You need to straighten that out. I'm not going to take that. I am not going to take that.
I am not going to take that. I am not going to take that. Yes, you will.
Ma'am, those were his words.
No, you called me a hypocrite, and you're not going to do that.
Exactly.
You are
tell you
not.
why.
You are not.
I'm going to tell you.
I bet you he will. I bet you he's going to keep on doing it. I'm just guessing.
Censor me.
Y'all stop our time.
Yeah. Exactly.
No.
No, what lawyer?
Do you see how that lady, I presume that lady is his wife, girlfriend, sister, something along that line, but do you see how she stepped up? The man in the podium, he's laying down the smack. He's talking about what's going to happen, what ain't going to happen. And it's so effective that other man, the white dude with the gray hair, standing up, pointing his finger, which again, that's body language for some kind of trying to be intimidating, pointing his finger and such like that, the man in the, up there at the board, the man on the board over there, he's invoking the same theatrics and animation and stuff as the lady in the first video. And for the same reason. Because that man's trying to defend himself femininely with all of that words and theatrics and all that kind of stuff. Whereas the man that's in the podium over here, he's not impressed by any of that. And he only really seems to raise his voice and get aggressive after that man goes on for quite some time. But in the midst of all of that aggressive exchange, the lady who must be at least in the group with the guy in the podium, she stands up and in that feminine, gentle, sweeter voice asks, can y'all stop our time? Can you give us some more time or whatever along that case? That's where the lady in the first video needs to be. Just like I said in that first video, she needs to be sitting in that chair over there in her proper, good, just, proper place, prepared to support the man in what he's doing. That's how God created her, as the suitable helper. I'm just offering the truth to you, that's all.
No, what law have I broken? None. What law have I broken? Okay. Just you.
Now, you're not going to do that to me.
Let the man speak.
Do you hear that? People in the audience, they're starting to rally behind him. Let the man speak. Let the man speak. That wasn't happening with the lady in the first video. This is because If you'll notice, the police right over there, you see them on the other side of the guy at the podium. There's what, a couple of policemen, and good Lord Almighty, that dude in the suit over there, man. I don't know if that guy's got to be some relation to Andre the Giant or something. I don't know, man, a guy that big. But here the men come out to do what? To deal with a man. See, but the people out in the audience, like I pointed out in my first video, they're beginning to be influenced and inspired and whatnot. It's because something about the bass in a man's voice. I've had many school teachers, many bus drivers, female school teachers, female bus drivers, talk to me and tell me about how students behave differently when it's a male teacher or a male bus driver. I drove a school bus for Mobile County for many years. And it was a normal tactic for a route supervisor to move a male bus driver onto a troubled problem route, because it's just, I don't know if it's mystical, if it has something to do with pheromones, what, I don't know. I'm no doctor. What do I know? But other than the fact that it would be effective most times to put a male on that bus or put a male teacher in that classroom, because the children and people in general are going to respond differently to the presence of a male than the presence of a woman. And that male doesn't even have to be some big, threatening, intimidating person. There's just something about when a male is in the room, people typically behave differently. Friend and foe alike. I don't know what it is, other than the fact that that's how God created and established his order. Of course, there's plenty of reasons, I'm sure, why no one was chanting in the other video, let her speak, because her voice was just, oh my gosh, it was just incessantly just, driving me up the wall. You know, she had me ready to go join the Democratic Party. But at any rate, I just thought it was coincidental that when I got finished editing that first video, and I said, well, I'm going to go see what's going on over here on the Book of Faces, I popped over and it was like one of those news stations from over there in Louisiana had shared this story from today, some school board meeting in some parish over there in Louisiana. So again, I'm just pointing this out to you. Proof positive. I am Dane Snyder, and if I tell you a chicken dip snuff, look under his wing. There's going to be a Skull can or Copenhagen or can under there. There's going to be a can under there. I guarantee you.